This presentation is part of the District 7 Club Officer Makeup Training Series. It takes place between June through August of 2021. Specifically, this is an elective. In other words, we will not be getting credit for attending this in terms of the Distinguished Club program, but I give you personal credit for attending and for your interest in this critically important role of Vice President Education, Base Camp Manager. You can really make a difference. I've instituted some of the changes I'm going to share with you today. It's made a huge impact for my club, and I really think it could help yours, and I look forward to your suggestions and feedback. Take what I share for the tools, maybe add it to your toolbox. You might be doing very well. These could be some more interesting ideas, or you could be that person like me that was really struggling in some of these areas, and I hope to really help to the best of my ability. The title of this particular presentation is VPE Base Camp Manager, Contribute with Confidence. And that's what I really hope to share with you today, is to give you that opportunity, if you're not feeling as confident as you could be, give you that ability to contribute like I know you want to, and be even more confident in the process. Who is this training session for? Definitely for that newer Vice President Education Club Officer, as well experienced VPE Base Camp managers that would also like training within the Base Camp aspect of Pathways and FreeToastHost. The things that we're going to cover: we're going to learn techniques and strategy to further manage club education using and integrating Base Camp and FreeToastHost tools. Now, just so we're not throwing around terminology, manage, everybody knows what that is. Well, in this specific case, what I mean is submitting awards, tracking progress, and helping members with Pathways. Whatever we do as a Base Camp manager, we need to know how to log in. And a lot of this might be a review for you, but I really want to go back to the beginning so that we don't leave anybody behind. Maybe someone is just starting. They're not really familiar with how to do this. I want to help right from the beginning. So I appreciate your patience if it is review. And if you are a newer member, I hope this is helpful. So we go to Toastmasters.org and we click on Login, both indicated with the red arrows. We type in our member ID or email address, password, and click Login. Of course, there are many things we can do once we log into Toastmasters.org, but we're going to be clicking on Pathways because that's where Base Camp is, and we're talking about the Base Camp manager role right now. Click on Pathways, and then we go to Base Camp. That's where we're going to be looking around. And then finally, at the bottom of the screen, once you do that, you'll have two options if you're a Base Camp manager. One is to go to Base Camp. That's if you want to log in as your membership. And then below that, log in as Base Camp manager is in your capacity as a Base Camp manager within your club. First thing, in my opinion, that is really good to be aware of are Base Camp pending requests. This is the opportunity to keep that education flow going within your club. Once your member has completed a level, for example, they put in a request for you to approve that. One thing that not a lot of people know about are external trainings. But actually, external training is, I think, a little bit simpler to explain, so we're going to start there. And I promise we will be getting to those level completions as well. So external training, what that is exactly what I'm doing today. Even though I'm a member of a club, I'm doing a presentation in a different setting, a different location, digital location in this case. And then what I'm doing at this point is checking with my Vice President Education for approval, or one of the Base Camp managers. Is this a valid speech? Is this the valid presentation for the project that I'm undertaking. So I, as mentioned, log in as a Basecamp manager to view some of these pending requests. Once I do that, this is the first screen that I'm going to see. And you'll see these three buttons: pending requests, member progress, manager tutorials. We're going to click on pending requests. And just as a side note, I will say this. I think especially for a newer Basecamp manager, or especially Vice President Education Basecamp manager, pending requests is the main button that you'll be clicking on here out of the three. The member progress, just to give you a clue as to what it is kind of a bunch of charts where you can look at bar graphs and that sort of thing. I have found it to be complicated. I've seen a lot of newer Vice President Education Basecamp managers become rather lost with these. It as well, you have to make sure to refresh. It doesn't do it on its own. So sometimes you'll be waiting for several minutes at a time. Anyway, it's a bit complicated. It's certainly something you could explore, but I'm not going to recommend it in this particular webinar. Manager tutorials. Ironically, I'm not going to necessarily recommend going there either. Sorry to be raining on the parade of some of these buttons. It's not my intent to do so. But I have found it a little confusing if you're not sure how to navigate within Basecamp as a Basecamp manager. Believe it or not, it can be kind of hard to get back. It's like, how do I get back there? I just want to do my pending request. I don't know how to get back there. You avoid the whole thing just by not clicking on that and perhaps finding other resources to learn more about this, such as this webinar. But if you have some time to kill and you're just curious, you could, by all means, click on any one of those buttons. It's just out of the scope of what we're doing today. Once you click on the pending request button, this is what you'll see. It says view pending requests. Looking a little further down, you'll see what that request is. In this case, I did a presentation. Now, I was the presenter. This is regarding the TLI Club Secretary training. I gave that on June 5th of this year. And you'll see right next to that, it says type initial. So this is the VPE looking at this saying, does this sound like a valid project? Yeah, I think so. Okay. So I can click on either approve or deny. The green check mark is to approve it. The red X is to deny this. Once we click on the D7 TLI Club Secretary training on 6/5/21, if you want to kind of see what it is, this is what you will observe once that is clicked upon. It just shows you the description, the name, that's what I named it. Shows my path I was working on at the time, strategic relationships. Project was evaluation and feedback. And it just shows it was in a club other than my home club. That's the closest description I could come to. It doesn't give you a lot of choices. It basically gives you in a club other than my home club or outside of Toastmasters. Well, I was sort of in that gray state. Well, I was doing it online. It wasn't at a club, but it was still in Toastmasters. That's the one I chose. Oh, that's a bit of an aside. Basically, I just wanted to let you know this is a description that you can look at to see what in fact it is when approving this. Once you have approved it, if you decide to do that with the green check mark, you have an option to write additional comments. I like to write something that is descriptive of what we're doing as well as offer encouragement. So I just wrote, I'm approving your initial request for the external training, D7 TLI Club Secretary training on 6/5/21. I'm just using the name that they used. I look forward to hearing back after your presentation for me to approve the final completion in Basecamp. Keep up the great work. One suggestion I had at a previous webinar was, because we have 3 different Basecamp managers in every club, which consist of the Vice President Education, as many of you probably are watching this, but as well, you have some team members. You have the president is also a Basecamp manager and has the same Basecamp manager access that you do. In addition, the club secretary. So there are 3 of you. So what this person suggested is sign and date it. Certainly sign it. In other words, I would have signed it if I had thought of that. Dave Bones, Vice President Education, because that's my role in my club. If you were the secretary sort of filling in, you would say your name, club secretary, and then accordingly for club president. And then you'll see once you do that, it has disappeared. There are no more pending requests. Hey, we did our job so far. Okay, but now they are excited. They've been approved. Now they've gone off and done their presentation, and they have to submit another request to say, oh, great, well, I've now done it. Thank you for approving my initial request. Now I need you to complete this so I can get credit in my Basecamp. So you'll see the type instead of initial now says completion. And then, of course, we have the option to click on the green check mark to approve or the red X to deny. And I'm approving this particular one, and you can see it's indicated as circled. And then I do try to be descriptive and encouraging. I'm approving your completion request for giving the description as said. Congratulations. And then, of course, parenthetically, I would also add my signature. So I would say Dave Bones, Vice President Education. And then I would perhaps put the date as well. I want to really make sure that this is clear in the communication. Now, this one definitely has caused a lot of confusion among clubs, but the good news is you're in the right place. If there's any confusion whatsoever, this is where you're going to have that cleared up. So level completion approval. Same thing, it's a pending request, but now you're going to go in there. Of course, you'll see on the far left the person's name, and then the description. In this case, it says level 4 completion for strategic relationships. And then in the type, it does say completion. That's when I've completed level 4 as a member, or the member has submitted this for me to review. And as a newer Basecamp manager, I'm going to say something that's perhaps a bit controversial and certainly up to your discretion. But I differentiate in this presentation between basic level and advanced level Basecamp managers, VPE Basecamp managers. In this particular stage, I do not advocate particularly for you trying to get into the technical aspects of verifying everything that the person has done. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some strong opinions either way, and I invite those opinions. I'm just saying from experience, having helped clubs in this capacity for the past year, the pain and strife, and some people just giving up because they can't keep up with all the technical demands. If I have a choice between a newer Vice President Education Basecamp manager doing their role with common sense without trying to cross all the T's and dot all the I's, but within reason, I'm going to advocate for that. So in this case, the reason I'm saying that is, as long as it makes sense, as long as I'm not getting level completion all in the same day where they probably accidentally clicked on a bunch of things that made it appear that they've completed, as long as it makes sense, then I would approve this. And if you're not sure about a particular issue, you could certainly email them or call them. But we're going to get into more technical aspects where you can quite definitively show exactly what they've done for their requirements. So at this point, I'm assuming it is reasonable. I'm going to click on the green check mark, and then you'll see a little bit later on how we, of course, approve that situation, whether in this case at the basic level, we're going to get into another case scenario at the more advanced level. So pending request notifications, you might be saying, okay, that's great that we get these pending requests. Where, how do I know who's going to get it? Does it just come automatically to the Vice President Education? Well, unfortunately, no. Call it a bug, call it a vision that somebody had on how to do this with Toastmasters International, which I know and love and totally support. And, different folks have different ways of doing things. But the way that it is set up is the club email contact person in Club Central will receive the pending request. So at toastmasters.org, within your Club Central, if you are the VPE and you're wanting to get these pending requests, be sure that you are included as the email club contact. Now, this aspect I really want to make clear. So you are now approving the level completion in Basecamp, but it also must be done if the member is to get credit with Toastmasters International, and as well for your club to get credit with the Distinguished Club Program, you must also submit the level award in Club Central. We're going to show you how to do that if that's not clear. We're going to go right back to the beginning. You might be new at this, and I'll just say that this is worth it because I helped a club not too long ago that literally had been doing Pathways presentations all year long. They very rarely remembered to put this information into Club Central. And as a result, I can't remember if they had 0 at the end of the year, or like 1 education. I don't think they even made it to 1. But yet they had actually done enough presentations in Pathways to be President's Distinguished, provided the membership was up enough and the other goals were met. So I'm just telling you, this is a real issue to be aware of. In other words, let's put it the positive. This is a way that you can really help your club make sure the member gets credit within Basecamp, but also particularly within Toastmasters International, and your club gets credit in the Distinguished Club Program. So we're going back to the beginning here. We log into TI, Toastmasters International website. We're going to go to Club Central. I'm going to show you how to do this in just a second. And then we click on something called Submit Education Awards. So here we are. We log in as we did before. Same procedure, member ID, password, clicking Login. Click on Leadership Central. Now, there are different ways to get to Club Central. I will say this, just like many things in life, there are many ways to get there. Hopefully, we end up at a similar place. I'm going to suggest going to Leadership Central because I like to get our club officers getting used to Leadership Central. There are a lot of good resources there. So it's a way to just kind of open that dialogue, so to speak. So you click on Leadership Central with my method. You can see several options and many excellent resources. But in this case, we're going to click on Club Central in that far left side of the screen. Once we do that, this is what it looks like. And the first top section is just called Club Membership. And the second one down is Submit Education Awards. I have scrubbed, people's actual information, so you're going to see a lot of blank information because I didn't feel comfortable, especially with this is public and everything else, putting all of their personal identification information. So I think you'll still get the idea. So you would select the member, and that invisible member, he used invisible ink on his form. I'm kidding, digital invisible ink. That would be displaying the member. And then you would select the education program that you want to give the level completion for, the level award for. So now at this point, you will see in the top left, even though we're using digital invisible ink on that member, you would normally see their name, education award status, and the education program would be listing explicitly what that is. And at this point, you can look to that bottom right, review award submission, to see how everything looks, make sure you're in the right place, doing the right things. Again, one more time to kind of look at the information, which in this screen is scrubbed out, but suffice to say that the information is available right there for you to verify. You could click on edit if there's something in there that does not look like you intended it to be, and that would just bring you backward to do your editing. Or if in fact it does look like you want it to, you'd click on Submit Award. Another aspect that will come up in your pending requests would be the Pathways Mentor Program. the thing that we're kind of looking at here. So I got a little distracted. It appears that something has come through in the chat. Okay, good. We can cover that later. Great. And I'm going to trust that the chat master, Bob, will chime in if there's anything administratively that needs to be done. Other than that, I'm going to not look too much at the chat at this time. But please keep them coming. We'll save those questions for the end. So again, as mentioned, Pathways Mentor Program, we need to approve this in Basecamp. And additionally, just like a level completion, we need to submit this award in Club Central. So this is a two-way street. I will say this again, another parenthetical. This is a little bit ambiguous. I've talked with Toastmasters International about this, but the approval in Basecamp for the Pathways Mentor Program is very straight ahead. You just kind of do one thing after another. You complete projects like you would within your regular curriculum of EuroPath. The aspect of award submission, it's a different requirement. So not only does it require that you've completed the Pathways Mentor Program in Basecamp, but it also requires that you have completed a complete path, because I bet you could conceive of the fact that you could complete the Pathways Mentor Program, but not have completed your first path. So in this case, to get the award submission in Club Central, we're supposed to wait until that has taken place. And then finally, the third criterion of the criteria is that you have been in good standing as a member for 6 months or more. So that's just something to be aware of. It's a parenthetical, and that is it's called a Pathways Mentor designation. That's when you submit the award in Club Central. And to be honest, if you're that newer Vice President of Education, you weren't clear of that, again, controversial, I'm going to say bad on TI for not being super clear about that. And let's keep that member moving forward to eventually earn that full distinction. I haven't seen that come up yet, but if it did, I don't think it's crazy, but that is the status of that. I do think that there's a reciprocal nature of clarity that needs to take place if we're expected to follow certain things. So that is just one person's opinion in this case. But yeah, keeping it the positive, we want to make sure that you're confident in being able to contribute as the VPE Basecamp manager. As mentioned, it is very similar to a level approval and submission, the fact that we do it both in Basecamp and in Club Central. Another issue that definitely has come up, a newer VPE Basecamp manager was very disturbed that they could not find one place to look at their members and say, what is their education award status? And they were trying to do it through the member progress tab, and it was a real problem. Yeah, anyway, let's keep it positive. There is a very simple way to do this, and it is far simpler than trying to look at all those bar graphs and wait for the updating and all that. Within Club Central, it shows your club's member list, and it simply displays the current education award status for each member. That's what she wanted. So this is how we do it. We come back to Club Central. You might remember we did that before. So we're looking at the same place. Before we were submitting education awards. Looking a little further over to the right, you'll see something called Club Roster. You click on that. Normally this would show the entire club. I left my name up there because you know who I am. I'm sharing with you today. So that's just so you could see a name in there. There's my name, Dave Bones. My education award status is DTM. And it shows some other things like paid until, some other things like that. But really what she wanted, and perhaps what you want, is that newer VPE Basecamp manager is the person's name, their education award status. Now, we're about to take that step. You remember we talked about going from the basic level to the advanced level. We're now going to take that leap into the advanced level. This is where actually some pretty experienced people, even Pathways ambassadors and Pathways guides, some people were not clear on what I'm about to share with you today. So if it's interesting, I hope it is. This is another way that we can really help with our verification through member tracking. So here we go. We're going to do this with a case study. I think that's a good way to be clear about how the process works. We're talking about Basecamp pending requests. We're going to be dealing with a level completion approval. But now, instead of just using general common sense, we're going to verify the project requirements. We're going to do this as a Basecamp manager, but not only as Basecamp manager, but we are going to show you some tools here. You're going to be doing a member search. And again, all this we're going to show you on the screen in just a moment. And we're going to do that through Paths in Learning. It should look very familiar if you've been using your own Basecamp as a member. So what we do here is the same thing. We log in as a Basecamp manager, not as a member, because we won't get access to these things we're going to be describing. Click on pending requests. Here we are in this case study. There's Dave Bones. He's being very patient. Apparently, he has not been approved yet for his completion, so he's wanting that. So we want to service that, but first we want to verify. So we do this by, within the Basecamp Manager home screen, you'll see on the upper right an option where you can type in some search information, as indicated by the red arrow. You can do this by typing the person's name. I want to give you another resource in case it's interesting to you. I think finding the club Basecamp manager is going to be hopefully helpful and interesting for you, because that's going to give you access to all of your members. So you just type in the word club, and then sort of an autocomplete below it shows up where it says Club Basecamp Manager. Once you have done that, there's an option to click on View Team. Your team are the folks in your club, the members that are within Basecamp, your club members. Again, there are several here, but I scrubbed their information, but just to give us something to look at, Dave Bones. We're going to click on Dave Bones, especially because we're dealing with Dave Bones' level completion approval. This is what I love. It is so rock solid on. I think that Toastmasters International did get this part right. You click on Paths in Learning in the same way that you would do it for your personal profile. So in other words, if you know how to do this for your personal information, you know how to do this as a Basecamp manager, just like that. I love that about this. You click on Paths in Learning because you want to see what's going on in their path, what's happening, what does their project entail. So in this case, it was strategic relationships. So just like if you were logging into your own account, you click on Open Curriculum. And this is what shows up. I just want to bring your attention to sort of two sections of the screen. On the far left, this should look very familiar to what it looks like in your own profile, personal profile. Far left just gives that big overview, the curriculum progress. You can see that there are check marks next to level 1, level 2, level 3 on that far left side. But level 4 is not checked off because, in fact, that's what we're wanting to approve. I don't know how useful the 62% sort of at the top of that is. I guess the fact that it's not 100 is useful information. It says it's not done yet. You can see, looking on the far right side, which is more getting to the inside, if you will, of what you might click on. The level 1, level 2, level 3 says 100%. So that says, okay, there's nothing I need to do there. Level 4, you can see it doesn't say 100%. It says 67%. Again, the 67%, I don't know how useful that is, but the fact that it's not 100% is what you're looking out for. So you click on View Details. What's going on with this? Now, once you do that, you clicked on level 4. This is, again, that inner information that we're selecting. The 3 areas to look at that top section there, the level 4, completed 2, minimum required 3, total items 3. So these items are the things that need to be completed in order to get that 100%. Right now it says 67%. So let's find out what's going on with that. Public relations strategies, that's got a check mark. So Dave Bones had completed that. Elective projects, he had completed that. That says 100%. But now the holdup is us, right? They've submitted their level completion approval request. And the bottom there, that's what it says. It under level 4 completion strategic relationships status, you might see if you can, it might be a little small, but it's sort of a red box that says pending completion approval. So that's what's going on with this. But we're not done. That's not enough because this is the advanced level. So we get to verify even a little bit more specifically. This is the part that even the advanced Vice President Education Base Camp managers were not totally clear with. So we're going to now verify through member tracking, but now we're going to do this in FreeToastHost. So that's what was included on the advertisement for this webinar. FreeToastHost. What is FreeToastHost, right? I posted some information on a Pathways, what do we call them, a forum on Facebook or something. And I had put all this information on there, and someone's like, what is FreeToastHost? Well, let's make sure that's clear. Glad you asked. They provide complimentary hosting and websites for Toastmasters clubs around the world. For example, your club website. If in fact you are viewing this information, you probably have a FreeToastHost club website. In this case, we're going to go back to the beginning to show you how to log in. You're going to be immediately in this capacity going to a meeting agendas. That we're going to stay really on task with this. This is not a general FreeToastHost webinar. That could be a subject for another time, but this is specifically how you can contribute with confidence as a VPE Basecamp manager, adding this advanced level of verification of the requirements that the person is wanting approval for. I will say this about FreeToastHost. The default setting is that it allows VPE access to the meeting agendas. That's a good thing. Unless someone has changed it, it's all ready for you to go. We're going to do this through a process every week of reconciling roles and speeches for each meeting. Once you can depend upon that data, again, we're going to just invite you to consider this process. We're going to show you how this works. But I will tell you this, it works amazingly well. It almost can't go wrong. It is a little bit of work, and that's something to consider. Once you click on the reports, you have two options. One is to click on the member speech report for this level 4 completion. That's exactly what we're going to do. Then there is another report called member role report, which not only lists the members' speeches, but their roles. That becomes important. If you don't know this, it's good to know about that when you approve level 3 in Pathways, they, in addition to having needed to done their project, they also have meeting role requirements to have done the Toastmaster role, topics master role, and speech evaluator role. That is contingent upon the requirements for being able to approve level 3. That's why I include that. I hope you already know that. If you have questions, please do ask about that in the question and answer period at the end. Here we are logging in. So we click on member login to our FreeToastHost club website. Another one of those autocomplete situations. So as you know, my name is Dave Bones. I start typing in the word Dave, and the autocomplete comes up at the bottom there. It shows my education award status. I like to include my, even though I do have a DTM status, I like to talk about the paths that I've done and I'm working on it. It kind of leads by example that, hey, I'm still working on this. You'll, of course, make your own decision. I know a lot of people that just write DTM after the name, and that's fine. That works great. This is also important because if nothing comes up in the autocomplete, there's a good chance that you're not going to be able to log in. So it's kind of a dual procedure. One, it saves you some typing. Two, make sure that you are in fact included in your club website. Then you would type in the password and then click on authenticate/login, in this case, login. Once you're logged in, as mentioned, we go to meeting agendas. That's where all the magic happens for this verification process in FreeToastHost. What you will see when you do this, I just want to bring your attention to three aspects. First one is view another agenda. This is where you're going to use that down arrow button, and you're going to go to each presentation that the person did. Let's say in this case of strategic relationships, what's required for that particular one is really a required project and then an elective. There's going to be an associated date with that. So that's what I'm going to view, is look for that specific date that the person would have given that presentation. If it's been a little while, you may need to click on the middle one there, which is list all agendas. If you don't do that, it shows some of your more recent ones, but it won't go back incredibly far. List all agendas will literally bring you back to the first agenda you ever created. Like our club's been doing this for a while, so it brings it back years. I can literally go back years and see who did what, provided my information has been reconciled. We're going to talk about that in a second. And the pencil there is just edit. So that will get you a little bit more specifically into that particular agenda you might have questions about. Once you're there, really we're going to now talk about this idea of reconciling. This is how you know you can depend upon the data. So what I do in my club is after every meeting, I log in, click the edit button. And once I do that, this is what I see. The agenda items, which have all been scrubbed as far as the names and things like that, but you'll see people's names there if you've assigned some folks. So I will double check that, all the roles, all the speeches, and this comes up because let's just say someone was scheduled to do a speech, but last minute they canceled. It's not really fair to leave it reconciled such that they did the speech if they didn't do it. Or on the other side, maybe somebody jumped in on a hot seat speech. So we want to make sure that information is accurate every week if possible in this method that I'm describing. If it's not too much work for you and your club, it's something to consider, right? You have your things that you're doing. This is another thing that you can do. And I also like to verify the attendance. That's just a different tab. That's pretty straight ahead. Did they, were they there or not? And once you're happy with the information, at the bottom left, you'll see something called reconciled. You would check that off every meeting. Now, as far back as you have done this, you can depend on that data for sure. Once we're there, we're happy with the things that are reconciled, we're now back into our verification process. That icon there is how we get to the reports. So you click on reports. The one I'm going to recommend in this case for this level 4 is the member speech report. And then you could do it for everybody in your club, but I'm going to do it just for Dave Bones. That's all I need to know. I don't need all that other information right now. So I click on Run Download. And once that takes place, once we've clicked on Run Download, this is what you'll see. You'll see the name, the date, the title, and the manual project. That's the most important information, in my opinion, for verification. In the upper right, just make sure you're on the right person. The report date, the date selection at the time. It wasn't that many speeches yet. It was Toastmasters year starts on July 1st. This was on July 21st, so there wasn't a lot there. Date selection, current Toastmasters year. In other words, member selection. That was fine. And as we move along, we now, in addition, if we're still having questions, can ask for their speech information from that member. And it's also a good learning experience for them. What were your dates, speech titles, and what pathways project were you working on. Now, they may or may not have that information, and that's okay. If they do, then you can utilize that. If not, the information we just showed you, you actually do not need that verbal, although it's good to connect and check in, I think. So now, once you've verified this level completion, you can look at this the way that you did the first time, but now feel much more confident and comfortable clicking on that green check mark to approve. And hey, lo and behold, they're now approved for that level completion. But of course, as mentioned, it needs to be done in Club Central. So we do that as a review, log into the TI website, Club Central, submit education awards. Here we are doing that as a review. This is repetition, but I find that repetition is the mother of learning and education. Club Central, submit education awards, select a member, select the education program, in this case, Strategic Relationships Level 4. We can review it if we like, and we can submit the award. We've already got some questions. If everybody is agreeable, what I'm going to do is close it here. At this point, I would love to, at this point, head to your questions. It has been a pleasure sharing this. I think we got to the meat of the matter, which again is really that confusion that takes place between making sure that we do approvals in Basecamp as well as submitting the awards in Club Central. If you can do that and nothing else, you will be helping your club and your members tremendously. I appreciate you attending today and look forward to your questions. I hand control of the meeting to our chat master and host, Bob.
Thank you very much. That very in-depth presentation. A lot of meat on with the potatoes there. Some very advanced topics that you covered. Now, in the chat area, I'm sure people are asking. Ellen is asking, if the club doesn't do the second step, submit the education awards and the pathways completion, it won't show on reports pulled by area, division, and district when we review the ability of a member to compete or serve as a judge. So that reinforces the point that you made, that it's very, very important that the VP of Education know that they have to do this second step. It's actually, and it's not intuitive. There's no place in the, well, actually, if you look at the DCP, it tells you in the DCP that you've got to do the second step. There's a note in there. All right.
Yes, so I sense this is more of a statement than a question. Is that correct? In other words, I concur. I think it's very important.
Yes. Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Another question. During my club's new member orientation, I show the new member how to record their meeting roles performed.
Could you repeat the question again? I'm sorry, I wasn't totally clear.
It's not really a question. It's that the VP of E really has to show members how to record their meeting roles, because that's not intuitive either.
I see. Yes. So you are noting a member orientation, the importance of a member orientation procedure.
Yes.
Yes, I agree. There are so many topics that I could have dug into. I'll put it this way. When I give a presentation, I try to say to myself, I need to know 10 times as much as I'm presenting on. I mean, that's one standard that I've heard of, and I think it's a good one. And I think that also is in addition to the fact that there's 10 times more information that could have been included, and it is really hard to not include that. For example, I wanted to keep going with my presentation, but I wanted to respect your time. But yes, I think that is critically important. the better we can get in incorporating member orientation immediately can really help clear up a lot of this confusion. The purpose of this particular webinar is helping the VPE in their particular role of VPE Basecamp Manager. But yes, I concur on that as well.
So
Other questions?
I have another question. When I did all of that online contest stuff, I attributed it to a level path project. But my VP of E told me not to say it was outside of the club. And so we worked through it because she didn't want to do those additional steps a VP of E has to do in the Pathways base camp. I did the speeches in the club, but I was Zoom master or chief judge for so many things that I ended up filling out some projects that way, such as host an online meeting, you know, be comfortable with PowerPoint on an online platform, blah, 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 blah. A lot of those projects you can get done by helping the district, area, or division. But my VP of E really didn't want to go through the hell of showing me how to attach things and then having to sift through everything. What she said, keep it simple, the KISS principle.
Sure. Yes.
What is your opinion? Because I'm reading all of this stuff, thinking now, looking back on my path, I should have.
I think I get the gist of your question. So if I can just backtrack a little bit, it sounds like you wanted to do an external training request. First of all, have I got that right? That's something you wanted to do, but your VPE was not comfortable with that procedure?
Yeah, so I didn't know whether to start attaching things, start saying I'm going to be the Zoom master for Division G Northern, and I'm going to do it for this project.
Right.
I did all the speeches in the club about it. But the project itself was outside of the club, and she didn't want me to check outside of the club like you did in your presentation.
I see.
So she had the keep it simple principle.
Yes.
I leave off the last word.
Yeah, yes.
What's your humble opinion? Keep it simple, silly, or or
yes, keep it simple with levity, shall we say. Yes, I like that. I think there is a gradient. In the end, Toastmasters is a volunteer organization. It is per individual, their comfort level. Just from what you're describing, for example, if you did the, some of your project work in a place other than your home club, but you gave the presentation at your club, I could see that still taking place as a presentation in your home club. When I look carefully at the objectives, that's, again, IMHO in my humble opinion. Did I say it correctly? Yeah. But that is something that comes to mind. But for example, my presentation today, which Bob is good enough to do an evaluation for me today, I really, found myself wanting to do the external training because I'm giving the presentation at a different location. So that's first that I would, offer about the external training. And if this person wants to know about external training, I think there is help for that person. If in fact they want to learn, if they don't, then that's their choice. Of course, I respect that really. And then let's see, you asked some other details. Was that the essence of it, or was there more to the question?
Yeah. See, now she's president and I'm the VP of E, and I do have someone doing a work project. His intro speech talked about the work project. One person and one or two people in our club will be on his HPLP committee, and the rest are from work.
Yes.
So in essence, I believe that is within club. But the way I read the rules, he's supposed to upload all of this stuff. And for a software company, it ain't going to happen.
Okay, now I think I might be possibly hitting on something. So you mentioned something about uploading documents. Now, I have helped different clubs, and one club in particular, and it's going to remain nameless, um, they had some people on the staff, in their club officers, shall we say, that were technically pretty proficient, and they expected everybody to rise to that challenge, and they wanted everybody to upload their evaluation forms to the cloud capabilities within Basecamp, um, some things like that. I found like I don't actually do that. I can do that. It's been a while. I just did it to know how to do it. But I think I can actually organize it a little bit better than they have it. I've now basically been involved in 4 paths, and I have my system. I have it all in one spreadsheet now. It's dialed in, and then I have everything organized with specific paths, everything else. I like my organization, and I'm not crazy about. It's not bad, but the problem was this club had members that were like gonna quit because like I don't know how to do this. You keep telling me I need to do it. I'm just not going to show up anymore. I'm not having fun. And to me, that just really was something to be aware of. And I tried to lightly suggest through many, different communication platforms, you might consider other avenues to make it fit this particular situation. They also wanted to do use the feedback profile information as well. I found the cloud stuff to be very technical, maybe over the top, perhaps. Not my preference, although if someone loves it, by all means, do it. Um, and then as well, the feedback function. I got all excited about that. I saw some of the early ones. The presenter was all excited. I was like, oh, okay, I'll try it too. And I tried sending all this feedback and that nobody ever responded because they don't know how to log in and find it. And I thought, you know what? Boy, I can just send them an email. you know, and
What a
that's
hill
what we
to
ended
die
up
on.
doing. And that, again, I think this is a wider topic, but I guess I'm going to close. I'm going to draw a line on that question here. I think it's a great one. I hope we at least open the door for some dialogue and maybe got a few laughs from what I'm seeing from the emoticons. Next question.
I got a question. There's a lot of material, a lot of meat and potatoes packed into this. It'd be really hard to do it's hard to do a VPE training in a short 1-hour session. Would it make sense to break it up into a beginner and an advanced track?
Yeah, very good question. The reason I was excited to do this particular presentation, one is because it's being recorded. So even if we don't have a lot of participants, or if we do have a lot of participants, it's going to be on YouTube. Uh, as participants, you're going to get a bonus. I happen to put this on the same day. So I'm going to do my best to do that. It's a lot of work with my slow computer, but I am going to try and do that before the end of the day. But this is officially going to be on the D7 YouTube channel soon. That's when you're going to get the really nice edited version that our district person does. But you're going to get the more basic version, the less bells and whistles. Although I have a music background, so I usually throw a little music at the beginning and the end. But other than that, I think you're right, Bob. It's a lot. I mean, I literally, cut down a lot of information that could have been included. And I know for a fact that this information is not in the typical VPE training for TLI, because why would I have run into so many people that had this problem if in fact it were all able to be included? Now, that's not to say that the training isn't great. I've attended many of them and they're phenomenal. I always learn every time. It's just, this is a very specific aspect that I felt passionate to share with everybody.
Yes.
And again, I'm happy that it's in the video. I think you're right. I don't know if I would put it in official capacity to say beginning, advanced, maybe that could be an opportunity for me to say, hey, I'll do the beginning level, and then next month we'll do the advanced level. So I think that's a great suggestion, Bob. Let me think about that. And if you have more ideas, can you email me if you have more
Certainly
ideas?
will. Yes, I certainly will.
I have
Bob,
another question.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Does Lisa have a question?
Oh, sorry.
Agree with the beginning for VP of Education. I apologize. I jumped in probably 10 minutes late to the meeting. And I'm trying to follow you on Club Central as you're speaking, and then, and then trying to go back to my regular club website to log in. And so some of it was a little bit over my head, and some of it I couldn't follow, just trying to click at the same time as watching you.
Yes.
And so I do agree. I think that it wouldn't hurt to just do one VP of Education, mainly because I'd like it to be broken down into simpler terms and then be able to articulate that to other members in our group so they're not overwhelmed to becoming, and volunteering for this role, because it is a lot. It's a lot of work for 1 year. And I kind of knew that, but I didn't know it all the way. But I'm willing to, commit to that commitment, for the year.
Yes.
But I just don't want to scare off people who maybe aren't as willing to be challenged as I am. I want other people to take some of the role on, and I didn't get totally trained on what to do.
I get it.
For my own. I'm looking online as much as I can, and so I did read the manual, but there are still some things that aren't totally making sense. And I know that maybe each club can do a modified version of
Yeah, Lisa, I think that's a great comment, and I have very strong empathy for what you're describing. I want to offer you a personal um, suggestion, if you would like. I have found that the number one best way to get comfortable in this role is to get some one-on-one assistance when possible. On Zoom, I would be happy to fulfill that if you would like. At the end, Bob, if he would be so gracious to include, as a matter of fact, you could do that now if you want, Bob, if you could include my email address as well as the attachments. I created a folder on the cloud which includes the slides for everything here. There's some additional information we did not get to today, but I guess I want to put out the offer, Lisa. I'm happy to do a one-on-one Zoom with you if you would like sometime, or if you just simply wanted to study the documents, those will be online at the cloud link that Bob just put out there. And Bob, can you also put my email address if it's not there? Do you know my email address? Do you mind typing it in?
I can find it.
Great. So my email address will be also in the chat. Lisa, was there anything, so it sounds like it was a bit of a challenge trying to keep up with the logging into Club Central and some of that. Is there anything in particular I can help with? I will say this is going to be on video, so you can stop, start. You'll have the slides to refer to as well. Is there anything in particular I can help with right now, or do you see that as something that could be helpful to be able to just, look at the slides individually, study the video, stop, pause? Anything I can help with right now?
Well, one of the real first questions I want to make sure is that I should be receiving emails when somebody has completed a task in their award system, right? So I need to watch for that in my email, and then I can move forward with that. That I went and searched my email. So we just did this July 12th. So I haven't really been in this position for just a little over a month.
Yes.
I haven't seen any emails, but when I see an email, that's the steps that you're telling me I need to do that you just showed me. That somebody said, I'm completing this, go through and please approve my award submission. But I haven't seen an email, so I don't even know what an email looks like when somebody says I'm done with something. That would be nice to know, because I do get a lot of emails now from Toastmasters International. And so I'm trying to make sure I weed through those. Conference speeches, the virtual conference, other regional meetings, those types of things I want to make sure our memberships are aware of that are coming up. And those are important for me, I think, just to communicate that to the members. But I have not seen what you're talking about, an email example of what I should see in my inbox to take me to Club Central. That would be good. Did I miss that in your slide?
Well, yeah, let me answer it in a certain way. So do you know, Lisa, are you the club contact in Club? Well, you're not sure how to log into Club Central. Um, Once you gain that ability,
Well, actually, I'm sorry, I miscommunicated that. I can get into Club Central.
oh, okay. Do you know if you are the club email contact uh, with that, or is like someone else the club email contact right now?
Where would I see that in the profile or?
Yeah, so that is if you, and again, we could do this offline if you want, but just doing
Okay.
it from memory, you would go to Club Central, and then further down, this actually did come up later in the presentation, which I guess, I don't know, maybe I should have just kept going, but um, I do have, by the way, 2 full presentations of my entire presentation, which I can include in a follow-up email to you if you like, um, which does include that. But again, just from memory, so you would log into Club Central, and I believe it's under not the first part, which is club membership, but there's another section lower than that. I think it's called administrative tools or something. And then you'll see club contact information, I think. Once you click on that, you will see, like, I believe, again, off the top of my head, it definitely is club email contact, and then as well, um, there might be a club phone contact as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
so I see that. So currently the email, the club
and this
contact.
is
and
being
meeting-
recorded, Lisa, so please don't give any
Oh.
personal information.
Oh, okay. I found the,
But I was going to say, are you listed or is somebody else listed for that contact?
Yes.
Oh, I think you might have tried to talk, but I couldn't hear you.
else is listed.
Someone else is listed, I think you said. Okay, yeah.
Yes, yes.
So we would need to get you on there. There are some advanced techniques, which I didn't include in the presentation, where you can actually create a forwarded type of email, which would include you and say if your VP membership wanted to be included. You could both get it, or if you want to keep it simple like we do in my club, I just list myself as the email contact. But like I'm more of an email guy, someone else is more of a phone person, so they're the phone contact person. Do you have a sense if you would like to be the email contact for the club, or do you think you'd be more interested in the advanced application of looking for this forwarded email address where multiple people will get it?
A club contact person gets all the time. I think it's appropriate that it goes to somebody else.
Okay, okay. So that if we do get together, I can show you how to do that, where you could get it to multiple people. That's a great question. And there is an article I think that I could forward to you as well. I'm just going to have to try and remember this. So please, if you do have follow-up questions like this, I'm so happy that you are addressing this now, not like next year where you're like ready to quit Toastmasters because none of this is clear. So I commend you for asking these questions now, early and often is what I would suggest. And it sounds like you're doing that.
Thank you for putting on these training sessions. I think it's great. That's the one good thing I think the Zoom has offered and COVID is that you can have these types of meetings and they're recorded and I can go back and listen if I need to. And so, so I'm just trying to learn. I've only been at, like I said, a month doing this. So I'm trying to make sure I'm just following up with the duties I'm supposed to do.
Wow. Can we give a hand to Lisa? That is so tremendous that she's just stepping in and doing this. Wow. I'm just so inspired to hear that, Lisa, and I just really want to support you the best that I can.
Well, I might reach out to you on an email. I've got to get work done with some work stuff going on right now, but I will try to make time for that.
I am sure that you are busy just from your description, and I'll totally leave that in your camp. No pressure either way.
Okay,
Uh,
well, thank you. Thank you for the training. Thank you, both of you.
Again, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming out. I will say, on a personal level, I got 4 hours of sleep last night, had commitments prior to this, I have commitments after this. And the fact that one newer Toastmaster is here asking these questions, it made it all worth it. So that really made my day hearing about Lisa's contribution and her interest. Bob, you asked great questions. Ellen did. And it's so funny. 11 years in Toastmasters, I learned something new every single time. And as tired as I might have been prior to the presentation, I'm now energized, ready for more. So I appreciate it. Let's give ourselves a hand for just really great contribution. Wonderful to have you all here. Thank you to you, Bob, for being a great host, and to Lisa for being a great participant. And after the fact, Ellen for doing a great job administrating all of this. It's been a pleasure.